All right, so the premise here is that it's mostly brainwashing and mind control, and it's CIA level mind control. And as the amount of conversation that we're able to have expands exponentially because of technology, like here I am, some dude, and I've got my own platform here, at least for the time being, right? And so I'm able to kind of speak my mind and say what I want to say. And, some people will watch, some people will not watch. The algorithm either will be supportive or it won't be supportive. By the way, if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, that's helpful. And if you share the videos, obviously that is helpful as well. But we're seeing it in all areas of our media industrial complex, because that's what it is. Media basically goes out each day and curates the stories that they think that we need to hear. And what's interesting is that most people don't see it. They don't get it. Operation Veritas did this thing where they, I guess, had somebody from one of the Fox channels, one of the news, I don't know, the people who are at the top, news director probably, saying things like, this story won't appeal to Black people. That's why we don't talk about Bitcoin on our channel. And I was like, wow. I mean, when you actually hear like pure racism, like it basically says Black people don't like Bitcoin. So we're not going to talk about Bitcoin because either what? They're not smart enough to understand Bitcoin? What? Is this the old soft bigotry of low expectations? Because this is something that we need to have a conversation about, left, right, center. I mean, if you're saying this, if you're basically making the claim, and this is why the voter ID thing drives me crazy. Black people are smart enough to get an ID. They're not being suppressed. They probably already have an ID, all right? And they can easily get one, and they can easily be told how to get one. So it's just mind-blowing that they put people in these categories, right? It's all, like I said, mind control. We are now putting you in the trance. We are telling you that you're incapable. We're telling you that you won't be able to live or survive if you don't do this thing that you're supposed to do at CVS and Walgreens, or at the pop-up location at the corner of your street. Big tent, big letters on there, right here. Big syringe on the side of the tent. Ooh, that's going to be fun, right? Hey, I didn't like this stuff before this started happening. I had one of those things when I was like, I want to say 14 or 15, and I passed out. I don't know if you can see the scar, but I actually got a scar on my head that's still there, because when I passed out, I hit my head on an iron radiator when I fell. So yeah, no, I'm not a fan of the syringe. But here's where I'm going with this. Aside from the childhood issues that I'm obviously still dealing with, we're in a place right now where everything is so arbitrary. It's so, like, if you come up, I've seen some incredible memes the last few days about, okay, so we found out that this doesn't work, or it protects you, but it doesn't protect you for that long, or you're going to need a booster, or the best way to combat this is go back to the thing that we were doing that wasn't working, that has shown no sign of working. It cuts off your airflow, but we're going to continue to do it. I think it's child abuse. The family that walks in, they got the 4 kids, and I'm looking at the 4 kids, and it looks like we're in some kind of movie from the 90s where, they just dropped a chemical weapon, and the kids are running around the store, but everybody looks so subdued and scared. I mean, do you sense that? Is it maybe because you can't see everyone's face? So you're thinking to yourself, it's just really dark. There's like this heaviness in the air. I mean, it's complete toxic mind control, brainwashing. And again, one of the things that has really scared me is that people are so compliant because they're told this is your patriotic duty. You know what patriotism really is? It's dissent. It's dissent. When the founders, when they dissented against Great Britain, that was patriotic, right? When people protested the Vietnam War, that was patriotic. And you can go down the list of things. Now you can show your, love of country, and that can look like patriotism. But to me, that's just like an intrinsic, natural thing. If you like the country you live in, then you're proud of your country and so forth. Patriotism is when you stand up for things that you know are wrong, and you know that's what your country should stand for, right? And some things that people say are patriotic, I don't think are patriotic, like celebrating another war, like saying, yes, we need to support our troops. Wait a minute, I support the people who are going. This is a tough one. I'm starting to think that people who go are now maybe kind of a little bit responsible because they're saying, yeah, I'm willing to do this. And what? So you didn't figure out what this mission is? 20 years in Afghanistan, you didn't figure that out? How much time did we spend in Vietnam? At the end of it, I mean, that was a draft, so those guys didn't have a choice. But now you got a choice. Do I enlist? No, I don't like what they're doing. Do I want to be a laboratory rat? Do I want to be a test subject? Ask the Tuskegee Airmen. Okay, ask all of these people who throughout history have been part of experiments. And now we're all part of an experiment. And yet people are like, oh, it's for the greater good. Hey, you lefties, I love you. I love the fact that you're fighting. You're fighting for your Medicare for all. There's a couple of things that you want, student loan debt forgiveness. I like those things. I do. But again, this goes back to my conversation with Pasta. And he and I agreed that you can't have these debates. We don't have the luxury to start worrying about. First of all, let me address the college thing. All right. We need trade schools. We need vocational schools. Forget the 4-year college where you get the psych degree and you don't have a job when you're done, right? And they promise you, oh yeah, you'll get 150,000 a year to do this. It's BS. Okay, more mind control. It's everywhere. You're 17, 18 years old. You don't know what to do with your life. You're listening to somebody tell you, yes, go through this protocol. Protocol like the one they have at the hospital. I've seen the flow chart, people. They're not doing medicine anymore. They're not doing medicine. When somebody is admitted with the mystery particle, they've been infected, right? There's a protocol that kicks in. They don't look at anybody's medical history. They don't look at possibly that they might have allergic reactions to things. They don't look at any of that stuff. This is the protocol handed down from on high, and we must follow. So again, it's infecting the people who are supposed to be, taking or took an oath that they would do no harm. Do no harm. And it's kind of like there's a guy lying on the road and he's bleeding out. And what do? You try to stop you jam something in between the blood and it flowing out. You grab something and you try to stop it. You could use your own shirt. You could use whatever. But at that point, you do whatever you can in that situation to try to stop that from happening. And we're not doing that anymore. Instead of, and the reason I use that as an example is what we're doing is we're being lazy. We're saying, okay, this is what they've told us to do. Has it worked? Has it worked? They keep, showing those numbers, 600,000 or whatever. By the way, you're supposed to reset the clock at the beginning of a new year. And I keep making this point all the time. So we're just going to record forever. How about a yearly total? Because then we could say, because they don't want any good news, because you could say, well, we lost way fewer people this year than we did last year, right? But they just want to keep accumulating data. All right. This could be the biggest medical malpractice, malfeasance in the history of humanity. And there are many people that are very black-pilled and think that it's all intentional. And I'm in that group. I'm in that category. Why? Why are they doing this? And then they're doing it throughout all the institutions. Education, they're training people to not like each other at a very young age. Little kids, innocent little kids. One of the great gifts from last year is when at that point, he was 6, my 6-year-old got on a bus and went to private school about a year ago. And it was like August 10th, I think. And all the other kids were locked down. They couldn't go anywhere. By the way, this shows you that sometimes a private institution is way better than a public institution. All right. So for those of you who are more progressive and to the left, understand that sometimes the free market does create some space, and it does do some good things. And I had that choice. And thank God I had that choice, because he lived a very normal life. He has not donned a face covering, but maybe twice in the last year. I think one dentist he went to required it. But then, as soon as he got in the chair, because that makes a lot of sense, right? Because you can't do dental stuff wearing a diaper on your face. Our world has gone mad, because if you make a logical assertion about something, people are going to push back and say, no, that's not true. Really? The sky is blue is not true. Oh, okay. Well, it's gray now because a cloud is up there, but it's blue. Stop it. As just some guy who's trying to make a small impact with this little channel here, I think my goal is to try to erase all of the political nonsense and political ideologies that are quite honestly destroying conversations. Because if I find out that so-and-so is a far left-wing nut, or if I find that this person is super right-wing so much that they want to secede from the union, which I don't think is really that unreasonable. All right, I'm going to listen to everybody, but then what I want to hear is I want to scrub clean all of your identifiers. I don't care. What I want to hear is, do you believe in freedom of movement? Do you believe in freedom of speech? Do you believe in bodily autonomy? Do you believe a central planner is a better idea than somebody who's local or an individual planner? And libertarians like to call that decentralization. And I think there are people who are progressives who want their agenda done, but want also kind of like some sort of checks and balances system that they can actually be a part of. So I think we're all kind of moving in that direction. We can debate policy. All right. We can debate, like I said, during this conversation about, is going to war a good idea? Why are we going to war? Why are we trying to remake the world in our image? And for you constitutional folks, and I consider myself in that camp. This isn't in the Constitution. Running around the world, avoid foreign entanglements. Okay, that's not what we're doing. By the way, for you progressives who thought Joe Biden was a good idea because he was going to be great for the environment, Joe Biden is actually drilling more oil on public land than Donald Trump did. Jimmy Dore just covered that, and I found it fascinating. It's like everything else. It's like, oh yeah, he says, why kill a pipeline, right? And then do this other thing. Why? It's like ban the pipeline, which is probably, I know, look, I understand going over sacred burial grounds, and you know what, there's probably a workaround. Yeah, you might have to spend a little bit more money to avoid those things. There's probably a workaround for those things. Or yes, we could get rid of all fossil fuels. And we can, but we can't do it for a while. I don't, either the technology isn't there, or, like the Elon Musks of the world don't want us to have the technology. And I'm thinking it's the second, because I think we've been on this type of energy for over a century, right? You would think by now we would have had, and I know there have been discoveries that have been bought out by the oil industry. It's time, though. It's time. I mean, and by the way, if you're an alarmist and you think the ice caps are melting, let's see if your premise is correct and find this new technology. The problem is a lot of people don't really care about humanity. We're finding that out every day. If there are people dying, right, and it's quantifiable, and they were doing something and it was causing them to die, and it should be reported, but it's not being reported, right? And you know what I'm talking about. These people would rather cover it up than tell people the truth. So what does that make them? That makes them criminals. That makes them sociopaths. It makes them completely numb to the idea of humanity. Like I say, I think of my 7-year-old and I lock up because I'm like, oh gosh, he's so innocent. He doesn't know. He's starting to be more aware of things. But, when I turn on the TV and they're talking about, mandatory this and locking this down, and you're going to have to, and I'm thinking, what kind of world is this? What kind of freaking world are we living in right now? I mean, and yeah, your instincts as a father, and you don't get them naturally. You have to watch kids grow up for a while, because when they're born, you're like, crap, what do I do? But when they start to grow, and then they say these incredibly just adorable things, and then they say things that are really smart because they just blurt out whatever they think at that moment, and they end up being much more real and much more truthful than most adults that I encounter. So how do I avoid him being brainwashed? I gotta, and by the way, this is the challenge to everybody, left, right, wherever you are, center, no political affiliation, whatever it is that you are. You've got to think for yourself on these issues, but you really have to let go of the toxicity, which is the media, which is the New World Order, which is the oligarchy that's it's trying to kill and destroy and to maim and to hurt people internally. If they're not going to hurt you physically, they're going to hurt you emotionally. And I'm battling this right now myself. I'm having crazy nightmares. My wife woke up the other night. She had a dream that she got jabbed, and there were people were holding her down and they were jabbing her. And she works in a business, in an industry right now, which is going to forcibly start to do this to people. And so we're getting to a point now where we're really scared. You're saying, well, she'll be fine. Show me the long-term study. Show me the long-term study. Show me any study for that matter, which would be convincing. Because here's the thing, I'd like to be wrong about everything that's been happening. And then when something else happens, when they tell you, oh, you did the thing, but yet you still got the dreaded floating, spiky looking particle. You got it anyway. And you're seeing this. Breakthroughs, they're called breakthrough, like it's a good thing. Hey, it's a breakthrough. Yeah, you're going to see more breakthroughs. And then you're going to see more and more and more. And then people will start to think to themselves, hopefully, you would have thought this like months ago, but they'll start to think to themselves, well, why bother doing this? Why should I put these chemicals in if these chemicals are not doing anything and they're going to be risky? Why would I do that? I mean, if you can get to the VAERS website, check it out. I hear, it's been messed around with the last few weeks because their numbers got out of control and then they had to deduct some. And even with the numbers that they settled on, every other rollout has been stopped in its tracks after numbers that were in the double digits. They just, okay, this is not safe. But here we are, and we continue. The mind control and the fear, it's almost too much to bear. It's getting to be a lot to bear. And human beings, we need outlets, we need love, we need happiness, we need joy. Some of us cling to certain substances. You know why? Because, you know, it's a way to escape, and people have been doing it for, you know, generations, and it's just now ramped up. This is why during the whole thing, you know, all these businesses were shut down, right? Essential businesses, though, were liquor stores. Those were essential businesses. If you're in churches, you know, shut the church down. Liquor store, got to keep it open. So anyway, try to avoid the brainwashing. Get yourself a book by Stephen Hassan, and I think you'll understand. You can see the book behind me. It's one of them is called Freedom of Mind. He understands the cults and just brainwashing and how people will just talk with feelings and emotion, but with no substance. And that's the area we're currently in the time we're living in. So anyway, that's my video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon.